Everett is being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
It's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knight. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Heck yeah, and a very special welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us today on the very first edition of the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. I am your host, Andy Prophet. You can find me on Twitter at TDU_Andy, and I'm joined now and always by two of my best mates. First of all, in Adelaide, Jack Reed. Welcome, mate. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to love the Bolts?
Hey mate, thank you so much. Awesome intro, and I'll tell you what, if that intro song doesn't get me pumped, I don't know what is. Obviously, I'm Jack. You can find me at TDU_Jack. I'm a teacher by trade, so I'm a high school teacher, an English, history and media teacher. I've been following the Bolts ever since about 2003, 2004, when serendipitously I just started playing NFL Street on the good old Xbox. And there are a couple of guys in there called Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, and they happen to be the two best players in the game. And since from then, from 2004 onwards, I've followed them not so closely in the early days, but for the last 10 years or so with you boys, obviously been following them very, very closely. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I chose the Chargers. But I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much to all our listeners. Give us a bit of time to get things right, but I can't wait for all the support from Bolts from the Blue and across the internet. So excited to be here. Alistair, what's going on?
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Andy. So mirroring Jack, you can find me on Twitter at TDU_Alistair, spelled ALISTER. I'll mirror what Jack said. Thanks to everyone who's listening and tuning in from wherever you're stationed, whether you be family or friends here in Australia or abroad. Specifically, thanks to the Bolts from the Blue community. Your support so far has been awesome. It's really quite moving and also motivating. I feel like I could, put on a Chargers Guernsey and run out there and, I'd get my backside handed to me. But, so do certain Chargers players from time to time. So how I got into the Bolts, really I just started watching. My younger brother got into it before I did, about 2008. I saw this team wearing powder blues and this quarterback with a wonky release, and I just thought, this is for me. Anchorman was a popular movie around that time too, so I thought San Diego was pretty cool, and I just fell in love with the San Diego Chargers. For work, I'm a lawyer. I work at a big law firm here in Melbourne. If you watch Suits, the TV show, it's kind of a bit like that, except no one's good looking, and there's no one's having sex on photocopying machines. It's kind of not quite that level, but it gives you a rough idea of what it's like. And I'm really excited to be chatting Chargers with you guys, and it's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome to you both. It's great to be doing this, like you've both said. To be doing this with the two of you, we've been mates for 20 years, going through high school together, and we've shared this passion of this football team on the roller coaster that it's been. And I'm sure everyone out there can agree that we've had our moments as Chargers fans. Some almost awesome, some pretty good, but a lot that have just torn at the heartstrings. So. I'm an electrician by trade myself, so the blue collar of the three of us. Similar to Alistair, I was watching a lot of the NFL coming home from work in early hours of my hospitality career, and there was just one game. I think it was a game around 2009 against the Niners, and I was watching it with a guy I worked with, and he was just going on and on. I thought, I've got to support this awesome other team that, with this lightning bolt. And, like Alistair said, the quarterback with the funky ass action, but he was just dropping dimes. And after that big win on the Niners, I jumped on. And like I said, it's been a roller coaster, but it's awesome. And it's really a really special time at the moment that we're going to get really stuck into. So in the great words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, go Chargers, go! Today we've got a heap, we've got a heap of good stuff to get through on today's show. At the top, we'll each take a look at some of the new faces in the building heading into 2022 and their impact that they'll be having on our run at the Super Bowl. Now, while the Chargers have been bringing in the stars, it hasn't stopped our rivals in the AFC West. So following that, we'll take a look at some of the big news going on at the Raiders, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. And to round things out today, you'll get to learn that the three of us like to make bold predictions, chuck in some pieces for reflection and discussion, and really take any excuse we can to get under each other's skin. So we'll play a little game later on. We'll see if we agree or disagree with each other, and hopefully it's more of the latter. For those of you watching along on YouTube, thank you again. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for notifications when we'll be dropping new gear. And you can find us find the podcast on Twitter at TDU_Chargers. So from the top, I'll get us stuck in. Let's take a look at the key signings the Chargers have made in the last month or two, be it in-house or from across the land.
You have been a busy boy.
And, well, yeah, after 8 years of twiddling his thumbs for the parts of most of the off-seasons, our boy Tommy T has been a very busy boy indeed. I'll kick us off. We can get stuck right into probably the biggest surprise. We did a little bit of a pilot, a little bit of a test run a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed our favourite offensive and defensive guys to come in. And, it was great to talk about some of the superstars that were available on the free agent market. But sometimes it's those crazy trades that you just don't see coming. And although we've had a lot of signs from Brandon Staley in the last 18 months about his love for Khalil Mack, we got him, and we couldn't be more excited. 2022 second rounder and a 2023 sixth rounder. He signed his 6-year, $141 million contract in 2018, and Tom Telesco and Ed Maguire have restructured that cap hit for just under $9 million this year. Look, he'll get into big numbers in the next 2 years, but just awesome stuff for how we've been able to bring this defensive group together this off-season. I'll start with a few positives on the field, and they're blaringly obvious, so I'll keep it pretty brief and not get too stuck into his master consistency of production. We've landed a guy who in 7.5 seasons as a pro has averaged a tick over 10 sacks a year, 80 pressures, and he's got a mad knack for forcing turnovers.
Insane.
His PFF grades, excluding his injury-shortened 2021 campaign, where he only played in 7 games but still averaged a sack a game or just under. His PFF grades, as I said, have remained in the high 80s, low 90s range since he first donned the silver and black with the Raiders when he got drafted. More importantly, we're getting an avid disruptor. All this guy talks about is his want to walk the walk and his actions to speak words, and he just wants to make a mess of backfields, and he wants to make every offensive player's life that much harder. And it's just so awesome to hear him talk about it. His skills as a run defender as well. We know what he can do as a pass rusher. It's his skills as a run defender that will see our defensive unit just take leaps and bounds this year, generate more pressure on shorter yardage plays, an area which, well, we can all agree we sucked. Keeping on the gridiron, I'm eagerly excited to see what his variety of ability will allow Staley and Hill to do with the defensive fronts. How much more exotic our front looks can get, I don't know, but I'm really excited to see what happens. He demands so much attention from the offensive fronts. This will reduce the number of double teams Joey has to parry, and hopefully help some of the guys that have struggled a little bit on the stat line, like Tillery shine, but I'm not going to hold my breath. What I think is most special about this guy, though, is in his nature, his endeavour. Like I mentioned before, the way he talks about wanting to walk the walk and let his actions do his words, his presence off the field in the Chargers team environment, his work ethic, desire to succeed at all costs, and his will for relationship development, building off such a special one he developed in 1 year in Chicago with Staley. Just seeing the way that those two interact, and from a fan's point of view, seeing that content is just, it's so inspiring, and it really just gets the juices flowing. So I'm just so excited to see what, like I said before, we should have seen it coming with how many times Staley mentioned Khalil Mack's name in his initial presses, but this is going to be really beautiful to watch. Now, there's always two sides to the coin, so let's just mention he is coming off a season-ending foot injury and surgery. He's 30 into next season. But look, the surgery occurred just after week 7, so hopefully he's got a really good rehab run and he can just charge straight into 2022. Like I mentioned before, his cap hit this year is good, but it'll hit the 27 million mark in years 2 and 3 with no real escape clause. So pending a restructure with Bosa's contract, you're putting in 45 million on your 2 top defensive ends. Now, just a little one that you might not know about Khalil Mack. He was in Buffalo College, started out as in high school before he was at Buffalo College. Started out in as a quarterback, and he was called the bombshell man. Ability to launch a big throw, but could never really make up for the accuracy in the short field game. So at his size, he transgressed to linebacker and was only at 2.
He wouldn't have been sacked too often. That's for sure.
He would have been a running quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that, he switched to linebacker. Minimal exposure at the position. He was merely a 2-star recruit, so he missed the opportunity to land himself in a Div 1 school. He'd started as a freshman in 2009 at Buffalo and made third-team All-Conference honours. He chose to wear the number 46 in college because EA Sports' NCAA football video game gave him an overall rating of 46 out of a possible 99. Feeling like he was...
I love that.
Don't you just love it? It always gets better the further you dive with this guy. Feeling like he was better than that, he set out to prove it, using it as a motivating factor to succeed. He'd go on to lead the school in all-time statistics, tackles for loss with 75, tick under 30 sacks, and 16 forced fumbles, leading the NCAA in 2 of those categories, tackles for loss and forced fumbles. Well, guys, I said I'd keep it open, but I kind of just really...
And keep it short, or what's going on? You are absolutely loving him, mate. My Lord.
Mate, it's been a good month of having Khalil Mack in the building.
You might need to get some water, have a drink of water, Andy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, guys. Fire away if there's anything you'd like to add.
I think you've done a great job there, Andy. I love that rating that he was a 46. I had no idea about that. Only a couple of things from me. The thing that I'm most excited about, obviously, everything that you've said, but also the partnership, and you did touch on it, the partnership with he and Bosa. Where do you stop, or who do you stop, and how do you do it? That's the biggest thing for opposition defences. People might say that giving a second rounder for Mack as well is a bit rich. However, looking at this draft, we know it's not particularly deep in the second round anyway. So I think a 2nd and a 6th is fine. We've got plenty of picks on the back end anyway. I think it's a great fit. I think, Staley loves Mack. It's a good fit for all of us, not only on the field, but also off the field. Awesome stuff. I cannot wait.
I feel the exact same. You really broke it down perfectly, Andy. The 2 things that stood out to me about what you said. One, the compliment to Joey Bosa. Since Melvin Ingram left, we've really struggled in that respect. Fackrell gave it his best shot. Rumph is still learning, but it really should help to break apart some of the double teams that Bosa would otherwise face. It should open up opportunities for Tillery through the middle. So it's just excellent. It should make for a more diverse pass rushing group. And the other thing that stood out to me was this is the Brandon Staley effect, right? This is players wanting to play for Brandon Staley, with whom they have an existing relationship,
100%.
Coming to a culture that is being built the right way. And there are a lot of good vibes. And this is a recurring theme that I think we'll see across other free agents whom we're about to discuss. But yeah, Khalil Mack has to be the most exciting move so far, or at least one of the 2 most exciting moves. Can't wait to watch him play in the Powder Blues.
And what an amazing thing to go. We've finally made some kind of trade for a star. That's the first time that I can remember we've got someone of his calibre. Anyway, speaking of...
Hey, Jack, we traded for Jeremiah Searles, I think, a few years ago. You're saying it's a different level to this, or...
Oh, well. Speaking of which, I can jump straight into SJD. Now, I have fallen more and more in love with this guy the more I've listened to him and watched him, almost to the point where I find it very hard to be negative on him. But essentially, a couple of the positives, I'll just really get into it quite quickly. It's an immediate upgrade on the line, and if we use the the straight comp of Justin Jones. SJD is a 6th round pick. Justin Jones was the 3rd. SJD tackles better. He's got pass rush and is generally anywhere around, if we're talking of PFF ratings, so 6 to 8 points better in the relevant defensive lineman categories. So it's an immediate upgrade. The contract of $24 million with 15 guaranteed. Justin Jones comparatively signed a 2-year, $12 million with Chicago with 7 guaranteed. We have paid a little bit more, but we're also getting a defensive lineman who is roughly only a year older. I thought SJ was a little older, but he's 27. Justin Jones is only just about to hit 26. It's easily a proven defensive lineman too with the Rams. So, and SJD really should be coming into his prime as an interior defensive lineman, because those bigger bodies do take a while to develop. Hopefully that's the same with Tillery. But again, like Andrew said, I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not going to get into the numbers too much, but I found a great quote from Sports Insider about why Day chose the Chargers. And again, it's the same thing, right? It's this culture. It's the Brandon Staley effect. And I quote, "What brought me to the Chargers is my awesome relationship with Coach Brandon Staley, his philosophy, his mindset of the game. It was a mixture between me wanting to be somewhere that I know I'll be very successful, but also a lot of the stuff that I like to do off the field as well. A lot of my charity work and a lot of my media stuff that I do off the field. It honestly was just the perfect match. It all worked out." And that really resonated with me, because over the last season, we've had the all-in with the Chargers, which has been fantastic. I just can't get enough of it. But I remember there's an episode where Staley speaks about getting in good people to the organisation. We want good people here, not only on the field, but in the front office, all the way through to our training and our performance staff. We want good people. And if you're not one of those good people, and perhaps that's why Justin Jones was shown the door, you'll be found out very quickly, and we don't want you here. So the way SJD smiles, the way he interacts with media, which I'll get into in a second, I think is a home run. I love him as a person. We'll see what he does on the field. And I guess that's where some of the flip side of the coin of where we get to. So, per PFF, his best year was 2020. His grades in the mid to high 60s to mid 70s. The only thing is he only played 7 games last year due to injury. So that's a little bit concerning. However, again, I will state that, or I'll point out that he openly addressed that in his opening press conference, and that he did say that, well, if you actually projected, if I didn't get injured, I would have easily had my best statistical year. So that shows me that he's a reflective person. He's a smart operator. He's aware of what people say about him. He's aware of who he is, and that he's going to prove it wrong. The big if, and there's always a big if, his production, and he's played alongside arguably one of, if not the most dominant defensive player ever in Aaron Donald, who's arguably one of my top 3 players of all time. That means, SJD has consistently been getting one-on-one matchups. And I wonder if that's why his pass rush on tape has been fairly decent and he really pops out. However, as Prof, you mentioned before, he now moves to a team with Bosa and Mack on the edge. So I believe that one-on-one matchups will continue and he'll still get that production. The last bit, just like Prof had the interesting stuff. If you can't tell, I adore SJD.
Guess
already.
what? I love you. I love you. I love you.
Because not only does he play the position that I love, but his backstory is something that I can really connect with. Both his parents are from Haiti. That's Merlande. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Joseph. They work in the hotel and hospitality
If you're
industry.
listening, Merlande and Joseph, just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, that'd be great. He is a huge foodie. And all throughout COVID, he's been supporting local LA restaurants and frontline workers in the hospitality industry through his charity work. But he also studied journalism and media at university. That would be college for our American listeners. That's what we call it here in Australia. Myself, before being a teacher, actually, I was in hospitality. I trained as a sommelier. That's, if you don't know what that is, that means I like to drink a lot of wine. And I also have a huge passion for food too. I mean, he's personable. The smile lights up the room, and he says he can connect with almost anyone. He's definitely a Staley guy, and he's already one of my favourite Chargers for 2022 and beyond. Great signing on the field, in the locker room, and outside the facility. Awesome. Alistair, what are your thoughts?
Wonderful breakdown, Jack. And I've got to be open and honest to everyone listening. I didn't know a whole lot about Sebastian Joseph-Day before, his name was routinely associated with the Chargers in the lead up to free agency. Digging into his, PFF grades and his background and his output, it became apparent that he is an upgrade over what we had. Coach Staley obviously thinks he's a better fit for what he wants to do, and it should be apparent at this stage of the podcast, if you're still with us, that we are all big Brandon Staley fans. So we like what we see from him. I mean, especially Jack and I in our work, we deal every day with, organisational leaders and what it takes to be a good leader. And in Brandon Staley, we see that blend of empathy and intellectual prowess that we think he's... to do whatever he wants. And even though some of the results were shaky on defence last year... I trust that he's now bringing in guys who he thinks fit his scheme.
100%.
So that's my takeaway. I look forward to seeing what he brings on the field. And like Jack, I've been taken away by his personality, and he's always got a smile on his face, which is great to see. Should be a good leader in the locker room. Andy?
Oh, look, Jack, you really nailed the big points that I had about him. Is just the personality, the positivity, just the kind of effect that a guy like he's going to have on the rest of our line as well. A little bit more experience than your Justin Jones type. It's a great upgrade on that position. He's a Staley guy, and the charity work, the stuff that he does off the field is all massive ticks for me. So, yeah, I'm really pumped about the signing, and looking forward to that big smile getting to work, baby, and just crushing up some lanes for our running backs. We'll move on. Lloydie, do you want to take over the next one, mate?
Yeah, it's what I thought was the other key signing of the off-season, which is JC Jackson.
Yeah, boy.
What can I tell you about JC that you might not already know? The obvious ones have been discussed to death. We signed him to a 5-year, $82.5 million deal, so making $16.5 annual average salary. That is a ridiculous price. That is an insanely cheap price to be paying for a guy who made the second team All-Pro last year and has had 25 interceptions in his 4-year career to date. For the listeners who don't know, the J in JC stands for Gerald with a J. I really can't believe that this guy's announced for picking off the ball. He remains calm in phase. He gets his head around. He doesn't give away unnecessary penalties down the field. Getting his hands on 25 balls in 4 years can't just be luck. There's a real skill associated with being in the right place at the right time, making plays on the ball, and when the ball's thrown his way, actually snagging it. In fact, at this stage of his career, he's 9th all-time for most interceptions through 4 seasons, and all the other players are really from bygone eras where it's difficult to compare. The only player from the modern era who approximates his ball production is Richard Sherman, who had 24 interceptions at the 4-year mark of his career. So it's really exciting. Staley gets his lockdown corner who can just hammer down one side of the field. A bit about JC Jackson growing up. I mean, he really is lucky to be in a position where he's still able to play in the NFL. He was brought up in a very rough part of Florida, Immokalee, and apologies if I've got that wrong. But according to US Census data, about 45% of residents in that town live in poverty. Before he started at Florida University, where he was meant to start as a freshman, he was involved in a shooting incident. He was in a car with 2 friends, and a red car pulled up beside them and drove past and fired off 2 bullets into the window. One bullet grazed his eyelid. And the other 2 people in the car were hit by the bullet. Everybody survived, but that's how close he came to not being with us. And then the next year, I mean, he starts as a first-year player at Florida, injured his shoulder, and then he was arrested and charged with 4 felony counts related to an armed robbery. According to the police report, JC Jackson brought 2 people into an acquaintance's apartment. Then he exited to take a phone call, but then while he was out, one of the 2 men Jackson was with pulled a handgun on the person in the house, stole marijuana, an Xbox, $382 in cash. JC Jackson's attorney said, look, that the crime would have happened whether or not JC was in the apartment or not. And ultimately, the evidence was enough that a jury acquitted him of all charges. But that was enough to kind of create a blemish on his character, and he had to fight his way through the ranks. He had to transfer to Riverside Community College, subsequently to Maryland, where he killed it, had an outstanding career at Maryland. But it saw him actually go undrafted in 2018. There was no doubt about his ability. He flashed all the same things he has as a pro, but it was just those character concerns, and can you trust this guy when you give him a lot of money? And to his credit, New England took a chance on him. We know Belichick and they're prepared to take chances on guys with questionable character, or at least character concerns. I don't know JC Jackson personally, so I'm not saying he has questionable character. But, you know, he clearly carries this as a chip on his shoulder, and through 4 seasons into his career, he's had 25 interceptions, and there's been no whisper of off-field issues. So, on the one hand, you might say, why has Bill let this guy walk? You've got an all-pro cornerback in your midst. Why not re-sign this guy? But as certain members of the Bolts from the Blue community know, the Patriots have really made a habit out of letting these guys walk rather than handing them exorbitant contracts. It's how they play the system and the compensatory pick quota. So I don't want to read too much into that, but I'll throw it open to the group. How are you feeling about this, Andy? Are you worried that the Pats have let him walk, or are you bloody excited to have JC Jackson as a Charger?
I'm not concerned that the Pats have let him walk. Belichick does that with his love for compensatory picks, so he's happy for guys to get paid elsewhere and walk. JC wanted to come to the Chargers. It's sort of folklore now amongst us fans that pay enough attention and just hang off every social media post of an interview and press conference that we can. He just wanted the deal to get done, and I'm super excited about it. It wasn't even a guy that I didn't analyse as a potential free agent target, because I just thought he's going to blow the market open, he's going to reset it, demand more than $20 million a year, something crazy, Jalen Ramsey money, and I thought, yeah, well, look, we do need to fix that spot. I don't believe that Michael Davis is a true CB1. And, you know, we've got a smaller guy like Asante, so having this lockdown corner is just awesome. It's exactly what we need. Now there's less pressure on us picking at 117 in a few weeks' time. So, yep, all aboard. He's a ball hawk. What he lacks in speed, he makes up for in his genius ability to read the play and, get into the position and just cause havoc. So, yeah. Jack, any further thoughts for you, mate?
Yeah, you've covered that really well, both of you there. The big thing, the big picture, what I'm looking at is, whilst the deal looks great for us, I do worry, and you made the Sherman comp, Alistair. Okay, on the field, he could be a Sherman comp. We know that Sherman off the field can sometimes be very disruptive. I do worry that if JC Jackson he has a 10 interception year and he starts to be being talked about as the next heir apparent to a Jalen Ramsey, that he's going to be going, you know what, I want to be paid properly. I don't want to get paid 16.5 a year. You need to pay me like number one, because that chip on his shoulder can also be it's a really positive thing to sign, to get someone like that. But I also worry about the attitude that he'll have getting paid is not even... Is he top 5 money? I'm not sure if it's even top 5 money.
I think he's just dropped out of it now that Xavier Howard's been paid.
So that or something.
That would be something that I would watch, not in the first 12 months, but down the line. I have faith in that Staley can probably manage that, because you think Pete Carroll had some pretty big personalities on that Seattle team. And I think that Staley's got the ability to manage that. But it's just something that I would watch.
Cool.
Great point.
Yeah. So, Prof, awesome. We're moving straight on. We go to Austin Johnson.
Yeah, let's get stuck in. So if I didn't know SJD from a bar of soap, then golly, I didn't know Austin Johnson. But spent the last 2 years as a Giant, following a 4-year rookie deal with the Titans. He's a big boy, 6'4", 314 pounds. He's a space eater. And look, we've mentioned what Mack and Bosa will do and SJD, but having this guy in there as nice rotational piece, a stout run defender, he's going to eat up double blocks, like double teams as well. So we've just got guys everywhere now who can hold the gap, allow a shooter. He hasn't really been asked to be used or deployed as a pass rusher. So he's got a handy bull rush, but he lacks refined technique on that aspect of his game. So once again, contract 2 years, $14 million, coming off relatively a career year as far as production goes. And he did really well considering the Giants didn't have Blake Martinez for most of it. I see the value in the experience, the upgrade over Justin Jones as well. I'll put it this way, I'm happier that we've picked this guy over re-signing Jones for the same, if not more money. I expect him to be used as a rotational piece, a handy one, hopefully eating up double blocks and freeing up Mack and Bosa even more. Jack, any thoughts on, or did you know the guy? What do you know about the guy? And any thoughts on Austin Johnson?
Very similar to you. I mean, I've followed it a little bit when he was at the Giants, but before that, not much. Listen, it's, I'd rather have Austin Johnson than Gaziano or someone like that. Speaking of depth, Staley, we know, likes to build up the stocks of that defensive line, get a lot of players through. He's a good depth piece. Again, he's got a little bit more experience. And as you said, Prof, with the two bookends of Khalil and Joey, I think those guys in the middle are you're probably going to see Austin Johnson produce a little more than he did at New York, which is great. So, yeah, love him. I don't know too much about him. I haven't watched too many interviews with him. But, yeah, as you said, also really well put. Thanks. What about you, Lloyd?
I think the age profile is interesting. I mean, we had Linval last year who loved his endeavour but is getting old. Justin Jones coming into the second contract. We replace him with two guys in that mid-20, 26, 27, 28-year-old kind of range, which is great. It's what you want to see. Players hopefully entering their prime rather than exiting their prime. As to Austin Johnson specifically, I knew a little bit about him. I remember him being highly regarded coming out of Penn State. He is a relatively high draft pick. By all means, if you watched him at college, let us know in the comments and what he really excels at. But I do know he's played for some good defensive coordinators. If he was at the Titans for 4 years, he would have played under Dick LeBeau when he was still there for 2 years, the absolute legendary Steelers DC. He would have played for Dean Pease for a couple of years. Long-time Ravens great coach, and the last 2 years he's been playing for Patrick Graham, who's really got one of the more hybrid, multiple defensive schemes in the NFL at the moment. So they're three really good guys to learn from. I'd like to know what we saw him in, because we didn't necessarily discuss him on Chargers Twitter. There wasn't a lot of buzz about Austin Johnson. Staley has seen something. There's no apparent link between our staff and him, so I'd just love to be a fly on the wall and know what they're talking about, but I trust Staley's judgment here, and the combo of SJD and Johnson seems to be on paper an upgrade over Jones and Linval Joseph at his ripe old age.
100%.
All right, I think that takes us to Gerald Everett. Jack.
It does, yeah. Again, not a guy that I've really focused on too much over the last couple of years, but I guess what I can say immediately after watching his tape, he's an athletic upgrade straight away. Cook is 35 years old and is essentially at the end of his career, so I'm not going to be too hard on him in that sense. But Cook, was nearing that Gates-esque way of running, like very stiff, almost looks like you're holding your breath when he goes up to make a catch and hoping that he doesn't break a leg or something. But I guess what we lose in experience, we should gain in the athletic ability and to be very explosive at the position. I also think, with so many mouths to feed on offense, I think Everett will need to make, or the signing that we need to get someone who made the most of his chances. And in 2021, he only recorded 3 drops from 48 receptions for 478 and 4 touchdowns. For your mathematicians at home, I didn't do this. I'm terrible at math. That's why I'm an English teacher. But that's a drop percentage of only 4.8%. So that proves, or I guess those numbers anyway, prove that he makes the most out of what he gets given. I also think the yak ability he's going to get over Cook is also another one. So we've just become a little bit more explosive. The other thing that I didn't actually know, I thought Everett was purely an explosive sort of pass catching, running tight end. He's actually not too bad in the pass blocking and run blocking. I mean, he's given himself almost a 77, or PFF has given him almost a 77 in pass blocking, and a 62 in run blocking per 2021. And also he's been at Seattle. That offense liked to run the ball and have a QB, or had a QB, who I'm not going to say his name, who now plays for the Denver Broncos, that love to run around and make life difficult for his blockers. So if he's done that in 2021, I've got some faith in that. Negative.
Let's hope he doesn't have to pass protect too much, Jack, as a tight end chipping, but you never know.
You never know. That's it. But at the end of the day, this isn't a particularly sexy signing. I was personally hoping for a little bit more and a catching threat at the position, but understand with the additions we've already talked about, the cap room and other positions of need. What I'm a bit worried about is that his best years were 2018 and 2019. His last 2 years is where there's quite a stark difference in his production. And I can't see why that is. Perhaps in the comments, if you want to let us know, or you've got some insight into that, we'd really love to hear it. He's also a second-round pick, which I worry about. Why hasn't he been able to make good on his measurables and perceived ability? PFF have him ranked at the number 140 tight end receiving in 2021. So there's something a little bit weird going on. I'd love to hear what not only Lloydie and Prof, what you've got to say, but also some of our listeners. As I said, it's not a sexy smash out of the park, but in the context of our offense, I think it's okay, because if you go before Everett, you've got Allen, Williams, Eckler. If we draft a wide receiver this year, we might draft a running back this year, and then maybe someone like a Palmer. Where does Everett sit in that hierarchy? I'm not sure, but I think Staley and Lombardi have clearly seen something in him. We have lost all the experience that Cook brings, who knows the Lombardi offense really well. Does Everett have the personality to lead the position group like Cook would? To be honest, I watched his interview with Haley Elwood. He speaks really eloquently and is reflective about his time in the NFL and how strenuous it can be as a player. I actually really enjoyed listening to him, and it surprised me a little bit. And the first thing that he said, drum roll, digga digga digga, it's relationship with Staley. That's why he's there. Pure, even though he was on the offensive side of the ball at LA, the Rams, and and Staley was on the defensive, there was still something there that Everett was like, I want to play for this guy. There's also a little sneaky tape going around the internet at the moment that he could be the best free agent signing for the money for the Chargers this year. I'll leave it open to that, but Al, what do you think?
Yeah. No, interesting. I think we've rolled the dice on a guy who was drafted high, and again, Staley has familiarity with what he brings to the table. It's not. I mean, I was kind of unashamedly clamoring for a Mike Gesicki and wanting us to splash for a big ticket tight end. That said, now in retrospect, I'm happy with how it's played out. We've kind of gone with a slightly cheaper option who adds to our room. He reminds me a lot of guys like Jonnu Smith for the Patriots, Delaney Walker when he was at the Titans. A bit smaller, but with run after the catch potential. Maybe just not quite hitting some of the numbers that Delaney Walker did, but maybe Jonnu Smith, there's some similarity. I think he'll be a nightmare in the red zone. I think you can use him strategically like that. And I think we have quite a nice complementary tight end room now. Right. We've got McKitty as kind of your run blocking type. We now have Gerald Everett, who can kind of maybe be hit up over the middle and get some yards after catch. And Donald Parham was developing really well before his untimely injury last year. I wonder if we need to add a fourth tight end to the mix. I know Steven Anderson has left us now to another team. Probably don't want to add a draft pick there to have such a young room, but I digress. I think it's worth the punt, and I'm happy with the value proposition for what he cost. What say you, Andy?
Yeah, I think you guys have hit it on the head pretty well. It's an upgrade over Jared Cook, who looked completely lost on the field towards the end of the season, just turning his back on routes, like he had just misheard what the play call was. It was frustrating. Like you said, Jack, he produces when he's given opportunities. I think he lost snaps last year to Drizzly, the other tight end at Seattle.
And he lost him to Higbee, obviously, beforehand at the Rams. So there's something there.
Yeah, so pending some amazing resurgence of Trey McKitty in the passing game, I think look, I like the sign. I think it's an upgrade, and I think we needed to shore up the stocks there. So, yeah, nice one. All right, let's move right along, Jackie boy, to Mike Williams.
This is my one, the old
Apologies.
Mike Williams, and this might be the
Maybe
most
take-
controversial one. Hey, we keep on swinging. We keep moving right along. And Mike Williams this was right at the start. It's kind of hard to remember what was happening right at the start of free agency, but this was the one that Chargers fans laboured over the most. Do we extend this guy? Do we franchise tag him? He's just come off his best year by a staggering margin. So how do you say this is now reflective of what he'll produce moving forward? Because it's his first year in the Lombardi scheme, and this is what he's going to do every year. He had 76 receptions, 1,150 yards or thereabouts, and 9 touchdowns. If that's his output all year, every year, terrific.
Money well spent.
And the contract ultimately they gave him, was a 3-year, $60 million deal with $40 million guaranteed. So really that equates to a 2-year, $40 million deal, and then you can choose if you want to keep him on for whatever it will cost in the third year, which is $27 million. So it's back-ended. So we have incentives to cut him potentially before that last year. So the way it's structured, happy enough with it. I was favouring just franchise tagging him, having him for 1 year. But the way the deal is structured, it allows you that flexibility in year one to kind of reduce your cap hit. Whereas if we franchise tagged him, it was going to cost whatever it was, 19 million, I think. By extending him, we've dragged down that cap hit in year one to $14 million. We all know him well. We've discussed him to death, really. The thing that stood out to me as a potential negative is this is not your value proposition in my opinion. He's being paid as the 7th highest wide receiver in the NFL now in terms of average annual salary. Since he signed, Chris Godwin at the Bucs signed for the exact same amount, $60 million, 3 years, $40 million guaranteed. I think Godwin's probably better, although they're in the same ballpark. That's just the cost of a receiver these days, I guess. Yeah. Each new receiver resets the market. But we've got Keenan being paid as the 6th highest paid receiver. Mike Williams is the 7th. I don't think that works long term. But maybe what's being underplayed a bit in the public discourse is the value he has in the locker room. And I know that Matt Money Smith has gone out of his way to say, Mike Williams is just one of those guys. He's always got a smile on his face all day, every day. He's a pleasure to be around. He makes people feel good about themselves. We saw him lay it all out on the line in that last game against the Raiders with just an incredible second half performance. So I just think that maybe gets missed a bit when you're just looking at him like he's a slab of meat and what's he worth dollars per year. This is a living, breathing human being who you have to go to work with every single day. He's a big body target for Justin Herbert. So just bear that in mind, I think, when you're trying to analyse this particular stuff.
Well, I think they've done a great job to this point. He's done a great job.
Thanks, Mike.
Can that be the last we hear of Mike McCoy ever again?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for that, Mike. That's the last we'll ever hear of you. Cheers.
All right, what did you think about that one, Andy?
Look, mate, we discussed this to death previously, and everyone has. We didn't really want the franchise tag. We thought extending him wasn't the right idea because Devontae was going to get re-signed, and then we'd end up paying Mike Williams more than the 7th highest wide receiver kind of payment. But we got him on a good deal. Like you said, there's the chance to get out after the 4th year, and we really undervalue when you look at, like you said, when you look at him as a person and as a part of the team, you really undervalue the chemistry that he's developed with Herbert the last 2 seasons, which for a rookie quarterback, he's already had 2 coaches, 2 different offensive schemes. You just want a bit of continuity for him, and he's starting to flourish. His role in Lombardi's offense is really well suited to his skill set, and he had a career year. Yes, the contract is paying him to achieve. You're paying not for production, but for potential. So there is risk with that. But yeah, for what it's doing to the team and the way that it's allowed us to have to worry less about the offense in this off-season, I think is really good. So, we've been able to do a really sound job scouting and taking what we need on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm on board. I like it. Welcome back, Mike Will. Let's see a few more epic jump balls and just try not to be too stupid with your body is all I can say. Jack, any final thoughts on him?
The other thing I'll just touch on, as you both have touched on, is the locker room stuff. It's telling that Devontae Adams reset the wide receiver market with his deal, but Mike Williams was very happy to get really well paid but still be with us. So whatever's going on there, I don't know what the locker room is and what's going on, but keeping a core group together, good. The flip side to that is who's eating more now, Keenan or Mike? That's something that they're going to have to manage. Keenan, for me, seems more of that alpha dog kind of personality, whereas Mike Williams seems very, very laid back. That's what I see on the surface. It could be different in the locker room. I don't know how those guys interact. They seem to be fairly close. I don't know, but that's a hierarchical thing that I reckon we're going to have to watch over the next sort of 12 to 18 months too. You know, are we in a position where we start removing Keenan Allen, or we think about moving Keenan Allen on, the best receiver the Chargers have ever had? Do you think about that, the impact on the locker room and things like that? Anyway, that's a question for another time.
Yeah. Well, we've hit on the big names. Of course, we've seen some players leave for other teams, so special thanks to Justin Jones, Uchenna Nwosu, Kaiser White. We've also got a couple of other guys join us, like DeAndre Carter, the kick returner, wide receiver. That's going to be a heap of fun to watch him and his role in this offense and on special teams. And linebacker Troy Reader, probably another one of Staley's guys, who doesn't have a great rap, but who knows, we'll see him used in some great way. Fellas, anything in particular you'd like to mention about these guys before we move along to the next segment? Jack, anything you'd like to anything about these guys?
Not much. I'm interested to see DeAndre Carter. He has more of a receiving background than your Andre Roberts, which is good. Yeah, you're right. Troy Reader is not a huge name, but if he's another depth piece like a Zubnar or someone like that, we know how important special teams are. It's really important to have three phases working together and working well. You can't have one weak phase. Special teams normally gets forgotten about, but that hidden yardage, that 5 to 10 yards every special teams play that you save, you have 10 special teams play on the day, then you save yourself, or you gain 100 yards. So nothing too big from me. Sad to see Nwosu go. Good luck to him. Justin Jones, I'm not super sad to see go. I was never really a big fan of his. And Kaiser White, well, I think, Alistair, you said you were going to maybe mention it, but we'll talk about him maybe in a later podcast.
Yep, I think that's right. The thing that stood out to me amongst all those moves is, again, just a reaffirmation of Staley stamping his image on this roster. If you had asked me before free agency that we would let Nwosu, Justin Jones and Kaiser walk, I would have said, you're dreaming, is what I would have said. Because this is not what the Chargers really do traditionally. These are guys that Telesco drafted, 3rd round picks, 4th round picks. It's a bit embarrassing kind of to let them go and that they haven't performed at a level where they can be re-signed. Nwosu's a 2nd round pick. These are guys who ticked. I could have sworn that we were going to re-sign some of them to very high contracts. And we've just looked at what was available in free agency, what their production has been over the past 3 or 4 years. And we've just said, no, go and get your bag. All the best to you, Uchenna. We don't want to pay you $10 million a year. We think we can find something different. And I think that's refreshing. I think that shows that the organisation has changed for the better, personally. So that's my overarching comment.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think I probably expected... I wanted Kaiser to be the guy that we brought back, but that really just highlighted that linebackers are not a highly regarded position in Staley's defence. And... I've said it before. We've all said it before. We'll say it again. In Staley, I trust and we trust. So, thanks for your service, guys. I'm excited to see what they've got installed on special teams for the 2 new guys that I mentioned, Carter and Reader. But on that note, I reckon we're going to move right ahead. And like I said at the top of the show, we made a bunch of moves, but so did our rivals in the AFC West. So let's take a look at
There are rivals.
Let's take a look at what the Chiefs, Broncos, and Raiders did. Jack, I'm going to throw it to you to kick us off. What's your big impact move from one of our rivals in the division.
Pretty clear here. You got to go Devontae Adams. I mentioned him before. The market resetting contract. He's the best receiver in the league, and I love it that there's already a rivalry between him and JC Jackson. That's going to be a huge part of the outside storylines that go into the game, which I'm really looking forward to see. You know, you're going to have your dog and JC Jackson just wanting to be all over him. You know, a la Jalen Ramsey. I can't wait. I mean, the guy's a polished route runner, ludicrous in his ability to lose cornerbacks and also make incredible catches. I think he's going to be targeted upwards of 10 times a game. I really like him as a player and as a leader. You know, my perfect scenario for when we play the Raiders, the 2022 schedule hasn't come out yet, is that we don't play them in the first quarter of the season. I'd love to see him get some tape on him, and of course Staley probably wants to see some tape on him, and perhaps a chance to build some kind of plan on the back end to contain him. I will say this, and this is the first shot at the bow, and this podcast, all three of us have certain feelings towards certain teams and certain players. One of them being Derek Carr. Derek Carr is not Aaron Rodgers. My questions, and I'll put these to you, Alistair, is how long will it take for the relationship to build with Carr? And without Rodgers' improvisation, will he be as productive? My opinion is that, annoyingly, I think Devontae Adams will be. But what's going to happen here? What do you think?
I think they've got that connection from when they played college football together. So that's the big... Yeah, I know. It's annoying. And of course, for our Bolts from the Blue listeners, when we talk about the Raiders, we say FTR! Hate them. Hate them. Devontae Adams, I like. I'm a bit partial for the Green Bay Packers. He's an outstanding receiver. I think he's going to be a nightmare to cover. We now have at least a blue chip cornerback who's got a chance at doing the job, but I expect him to be targeted frequently. I think Derek Carr throws the back shoulder fade relatively well. I actually think he's okay on those. So I have a feeling they might pick up a little bit where they left off back in the day. Will he be as productive? I mean, it's very difficult to be that productive ever again, right? Different system. He's a tiny bit older, although there's been no apparent decline. I think he's going to be a handful for us to defend. When you add Waller and everyone else they've got, Hunter Renfrow, it's going to be a crazy division this year, guys.
Yeah, it sucks that it's...
Still on the topic of the Raiders, why don't I...
Yeah, far away, mate. Go, get stuck in.
We're still on the topic of the Raiders. I know we've got other points, but Josh McDaniels has arrived in town, and he's kind of creating a New England kind of Las Vegas Patriots vibe. They've made a whole bunch of Patriots-esque moves too. They brought GM Dave Ziegler, Chandler Jones has been signed, Brandon Bolden, Jakob Johnson, Jacob Hollister. They're just signing all of these special teams gurus and kind of contributors to recreate or try to recreate what Josh McDaniels had going as a play caller in New England for all those years. I don't have much time for Josh McDaniels. I never met the guy, but I mean, generally speaking, I don't rate him. I don't rate what he did at Denver. Of course, the listeners will be very familiar with what he did there. This is a guy who was their head coach from 2009 to 2010, essentially got everybody offside in the building, drafted Tim Tebow, so great evaluator of talent. At the time, he was 33 years of age. And now when he reflects on that period, he says, I didn't really understand people and I just wasn't a good people person.
Well, you're
learned 33 years old, mate.
Bill Belichick, being a people person.
Oh, God, yeah, I know.
For someone to say that, I mean, it's good to say you've learnt and developed, grown as a person, but to me, big alarm bells that a 33-year-old man doesn't understand people. Does he understand them much better than now that he's 45? Who really knows? And do you know what? Just a few years ago, he turned his back on the Colts after he accepted their head coaching job in principle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Who is this guy? He's a piece of a shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Is EQ something you can learn? Can you learn to be emotionally savvy and understand people and do all that? I don't know.
Good point. Well, he definitely is not learning EQ from Bill Belichick.
No, absolutely not. I genuinely agree with that. Yeah, look, Josh McDaniels. Let's hope he's as big a failure in Las Vegas, as he was in Denver. Hey? Yeah. Well, I'll touch on. I'll head away from the Raiders, and I'll go to Mile High City, where there was a lot of contention about who they might bring in as quarterback, and we thought maybe because they'd hired Nathaniel Hackett, who I'll get to later, that Aaron Rodgers might follow suit, and then maybe they'll get Devontae Adams. And thankfully, a lot of that fell through because I'm a Rodgers fan myself, and I couldn't do anything but hate him if he ended up at Denver. So that leads really well into what I'm here.
Shout out to Dan. Go Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Shout out to my cousin Dan, big Packers fan. Tragic like they all are. And yeah, it rolls in beautifully with Mr. Unlimited. If I couldn't hate the Broncos anymore, welcome to the division from hell, Russell Wilson.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
I wish that was true, but he's won a Super Bowl, and he's actually a pretty good quarterback. I'll give him that. Doesn't mean that I can't not like him. So to the Denver Broncos, the Seahawks send Russell Wilson, a 4th round pick in 2022, which is 116 overall, in exchange for Denver's first this year, pick 9, pick 40 overall this year as well, and a 5th, 152 of this year, and then first and second rounders of 23, an absolute king's ransom. Then defensive tackle Shelby Harris, tight end Noah Fant, and QB Drew Lock. So much. I hate to see what they would have tried to give for Aaron Rodgers, but I'd imagine you'd pay more for Rodgers. He'll have cap hits of 24 and 27 million in the next 2 years as he gets to 36 as a free agent. It is a massive upgrade for them over Locke Bridgewater, that experiment that fizzled out, and a new head coach, offensive-minded Nathaniel Hackett, who has had I'll get to him more later on. He arrives with more than a serviceable offense. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Javonte Williams in the backfield. A little setback now at tight end, losing Noah Fant, and that's on top of still a pretty solid defense, even though you're losing the great-minded Fangio. They've picked up DJ Jones, and the likes of him on their defensive line might serve as minor hindrances to our chase to the AFC West title. They might be a little bit more difficult than we thought, but we'll see. Jack, what do you think? Do you think Russell Wilson can extend on his legacy at Denver? Do you think they still have the pieces, even without the likes of Von Miller? And is the loss of draft capital a real bullet in the foot for the Broncos? What do you think, mate?
I would love to sit here and say they're going to fail. They're set up to be... They're kind of the Peyton Manning. When he went there, that he has a chance, I think, to throw 40 plus 45 touchdowns with who he is. I'd love to sit here and say no, that he's going to fail. No, I don't think. I think they're going to be... They've arguably got, and this might upset some Chargers listeners, I'm sorry, but they've arguably got now the second best quarterback in the division. I wouldn't say that. I still think Herbie's above him there, just in terms of how you build a team, because Herbie's younger and things like that. But
Herbie's number 1, right?
Yeah. Screw Mahomes as well. Is he going to be successful? Yes. Are they going to be difficult to beat? Yes. Can we beat them? Definitely, yes. That's all I have to say. What about you, Alistair?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that the book is or the door is closed or the book is closed on Russell Wilson's career. There's a lot of that chat around that he's not the same guy, and I think context matters. And he had the bad finger injury last year, and he is as recently, I think it's 2 years before 2019, halfway through the year, he was an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So yes, I was very glad Staley's defense picked him off and embarrassed him in the playoffs a couple of years ago. That was great. I still think he's a very dangerous quarterback. Nathaniel Hackett has done well with lesser quarterbacks than him, with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville, and he's been working with Rodgers. And it's not like there's a shortage of weapons at the skill position in Denver either. Where I think they might actually drop off a bit is on defense. Mm-hmm. They lose Fangio. I know they gain Randy Gregory, but maybe we shouldn't just assume it's going to be the same old Denver defense. Maybe that takes a bit of a hit, but I think their offense will kind of pump right up. And I know they've got a new kind of captain in charge of their offense as their head coach. Prof, what are your thoughts on Nathaniel Hackett?
Yeah, well, actually, I really like the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett. I would have liked him anywhere. I think he's... the way that I've understood Hackett is that he is an offensive-minded Brandon Staley type head coach. He's a coach for the players. He's a relationship builder. Like you said, he gets the best out of people. I've heard, obviously I haven't spoken to players on the Green Bay team, but you go down from Aaron Rodgers, Jones, all the way down to the bottom of the roster, they rave about the kind of guy that he is and the kind of operator he is. So I think it's a great hire. I think, George Patton has done a pretty good job to turn around this roster and sort of avoid a complete rebuild. I think the Randy Gregory pickup is a big downgrade on Von Miller, but, it is what it is. Randy Gregory, that confused me a bit. He can't really stay healthy. Patrick Surtain's a great cornerback. But, yeah, I really like the Nathaniel Hackett pick. He was my next kind of impactful piece in the AFC West is that he's got a 53-25 regular season record as an offensive coordinator at Jacksonville for a couple of years and Green Bay. 4-4 in the playoffs, and actually won as many games in Jacksonville in the playoffs as he did in Green Bay, but we all know what the Packers are like in the playoffs. Sneaky good hire. I think he's going to turn the tide and shift the focus, so while we are concerned and maybe we can score more points on a lesser defense in Denver, I think their offense is really going to start operating on a good tilt. So, yeah, I'm excited to see from their point. I hate the Broncos, but he's a good dude, so good on him, and yeah, I wish him 2 divisional losses against us and them missing out on the playoffs by a game. But all the best, pal.
Every year. Yeah, good luck.
8 and 9 for life. Cool. Anything you guys want to add? Do you know much about Hackett or sort of anything you can comment on this?
Go Lloydie. Go and chase Lloydie.
I will. Just before I do, he does seem Nathaniel Hackett has that kind of exuberant personality, but he also puts his foot in his mouth. I do that a bit. It is like intro presser. Russell Wilson's wife was there, Sia, and he was like, "Wow, I was so excited to meet Russell Wilson, but I also got to meet Sia. And sorry, Russell, no offense, but that's what I'm really here for." And Sia was just looking so awkward. And then he goes, "Oh, my wife said it was okay." Absolute goober.
Did Russell Wilson?
I was like, "Say he's a real."
Did Russell Wilson stand up and smack the shit out of Nathaniel Hackett, or is that just an Oscars thing?
Keep your wife's name out my mouth, out your mouth.
Yeah. Good thing he didn't do it after, because the press conference was before all that. It could have been a completely different result. Anyway, good luck to the Broncos, but not too much. The Chiefs, the main thing they've done is as obvious as the nose on my face. They've let Tyreek Hill leave the building. They traded him for essentially a first and a second round pick this year, and then and a fourth. So first, second, and fourth this year, and then a fourth and a sixth next year. So 5 picks, none of them first rounders. And they also don't have to pay him what Miami just have, which was 4 years, 120 mil, so 30 mil in a year. This raises a big question in terms of the philosophy of team building. Have the Chiefs done the right thing? Because they're going to pick new players with these picks, and they're going to have cap space to spend on additional free agents. Just for some context, if those 2 the picks they get this year had been deployed in previous draft picks, I did a bit of research. In 2018, the 3 picks they have this year, it would have got them Taven Bryan, Connor Wilson, Teron Johnson. In 2019, it would have got them LJ Collier, Irv Smith Jr., the tight end, Trayvon Wesco. In 2020, it would have got them Isaiah Wilson, the Titans tackle who's out of the league after 1 year, Jalen Johnson, the Bears cornerback, Logan Stenberg. And last year was a bit better. It would have got them Eric Stokes, who's done well for the Packers, Azeez Ojulari, who started off well for the Giants, and Jordan Smith. It just serves to highlight that it is a bit of a raffle. You think that picks look good on paper, but they can not work out. And a lot of the time in the last 4 years, they haven't worked out. I have a rule that You do not let a top 5 player at his position in the NFL leave you under any circumstance in a trade unless there's age concerns. You certainly don't take them in the middle of what is arguably a Hall of Fame career. He's just come off 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's made an All-Pro 4 times. So, I don't know. I think you need a bit of humility as a team builder, and you need to realise you've basically lucked into Tyreek Hill. You can apply whatever rigours and intelligence to your selections as you want, right? But you just never know how that particular player is going to pan out. Anything can happen. They can be a bust. They can be a gem. And when you have kind of Tyreek Hill leaving you in the middle of their career, it's difficult to replace. Let's just put it that way. And there's no guarantee you ever will replace them. Jack, talk to me. What do you think about Tyreek Hill and him leaving the team?
Yeah, it's a huge loss, and it's great for the Chargers, I think. He's the guy, as you said, a potential Hall of Fame career. And the speed, the way, he's a gadget player. He's everything you want in an offense, and he's everything you don't want when you're playing defense. So for him to just walk, I find that mind-boggling. And there's all sorts of analysis, and people have their opinions on why. Perhaps he wanted to go lifestyle down to Florida. Maybe there's a Patrick Mahomes issue there. Maybe he wants to be the guy. I don't know. All I understand it is that he's going to get thrown to by Tua Tagovailoa, who can hardly throw the ball 25 yards. So, shots fired. But as far as I'm concerned, great for us. Not so, and they're going to try and do the money ball. I think the Chiefs will, the money ball effect, by trying to re-sign players, find players for that same production, but you just won't have that. And I wouldn't say that about many players in the league. Kelsey, you could probably leave, but Tyreek Hill is one for me of only a handful of players that I've ever seen and just go, that's nuts. And on a wider, I guess to kind of round out the segment, I'm a history teacher, and I thought I might sum up the segment quite nicely. What we have here is is very similar to something like the Cold War, is that you've got big power players trying to sign as many weapons as they can, and there's going to be these spot fires, I think, throughout. Every time there's going to be an AFC West matchup, they're going to be rivals. I think every single one of these teams is going to be a rival. It's going to be an amazing game, which I hope means that we're going to be on Monday Night Football. We're going to be on the news. It's great for our division, but at the same time, we've also got arguably one of the best teams that we can see, but we've also got the impending doom that all three of our rivals have amazing caches of weapons, and that at any time, everything can come undone. So, yes, it's super volatile, but wow, it's going to be incredible viewing. That's what I wanted to say.
Awesome.
Agree.
Yeah,
completely. Anything from you, Andy, before we go to our final segment?
I'm excited in my tenure watching this sport than to be a Chargers fan at this moment. And now with all the competition that's generated in the AFC West, it's just, we've got 6 games of absolute fireworks throughout the season, and it's going to be fun. Hopefully it's not too much a hindrance for us enjoying as much of this Justin Herbert's rookie deal window as we can, so we can just keep loading up and not spend much on him. So as I said earlier, we do like to make bold predictions. We do like to get under each other's skin. We're going to throw some statements at each other, and essentially, you either agree or you tell him he's dreaming.
Now hang on, Steve. What's he asking?
150.
Tell him he's dreaming.
Just a brief homage to an Aussie classic, if you haven't seen it, The Castle. It's lived with us our whole lives, and it will continue to do so. So, Jack, do you want to start us off, mate? Fire something at Alistair. Give it a roll.
I will. All right, Alistair, here we go. McDaniels is going to benefit from Gruden's team-building ability in Las Vegas.
You're dreaming. Mike Mayock and I don't even know what John Gruden would be doing at the moment, collecting evidence for his myriad lawsuits. But I mean, they haven't built a good team. They've wasted picks. Cleveland Farrell, Jonathan Abram, ridiculous cornerbacks. Damon Arnett, they're just... No. I think McDaniels knows a couple of the pieces are there, mainly the ones that preceded him. I think you're dreaming. I don't think he's benefiting from anything. He's going to have to build it himself. I've got one for you, Andy. Derwin James is the best safety in the NFL.
Ooh.
I've got one for you, Jack, then. Derwin James is the best safety in the NFL.
I reckon... Oh, it's just hard. No, I'll buy that. I think the impact that he's got on the team, how he plays, and it's going to be a very biased opinion, he'll sign a big deal. Hopefully it's a team-friendly deal, and he's going to have a All-Pro 2022.
I hope so too. Okay, I've got one for you, Jack.
Okay.
Some people like Al Michaels. Some people like Greg Gumbel. Some people like Jim Nance. I like Joe Buck.
Oh.
I'm a Joe Buck guy. I'm a caught by David Tyree kind of guy. Joe Buck is the best play-by-play broadcaster in the NFL.
Nah, you are absolutely dreaming. For those of you who are going to listen to us over the next however long, I'm not a fan of Joe Buck at all. I find his monotone commentary the most annoying thing in the world. I want to get excited, and he's there going, and it's a touchdown, game over. Get me the hell out of here. What I want is I want someone like a very, very famous Brian Taylor to be saying this on the broadcast.
That was out of bounds! That was out of bounds!
For those of you who don't know, that's Brian Taylor, one of our AFL, our Aussie rules football commentators who loves to get overly emotional in the box. Give me more of that. All right, Prof, are you back with us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I've got you. Jack,
All right.
I'll throw this one to you, mate.
Okay.
Deshaun Watson escapes all suspension, drives Cleveland to the playoffs. Baker Mayfield actually works for Progressive Insurance now.
That's a two-parter. A
three-parter.
I'm so far. Tell him he's dreaming on the Deshaun Watson stuff. I don't want to get too moral high and mighty here, but the allegations are against him. I would really hope that there's due process and due process is followed. If he's been proven innocent, I can accept that, but it's very, very rare for over 20 people to come out and say things. I'm not a huge fan of Deshaun Watson. But again, I'll accept it if he is proven not guilty, fine. I think he is going to get a suspension. Baker Mayfield, I think, may as well be an insurance salesman because I'm not sure where he's at. Awesome. That was a great one.
I love the legal analysis from the teacher there, Jack. You're just hitting it on the head.
All right, I've got one. Here we go. And I'm going to shoot this to Prof. This is a big one, and it'll be interesting to see what you say. Justin Herbert will take a team-friendly deal and won't care about being the highest-paid quarterback of all time.
That's all right. I think he's a chance to take a team-friendly deal. He seems to be that kind of guy, right? Oregon born and raised. He doesn't strike me as a avaricious type who's out there to try and make the most amount of money possible. That said, he is represented. He does have an agent, right? Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe we have to pay him what he's due, but who knows? I certainly hope he takes a team-friendly deal. I've got a couple more. One is to you again, Jack. Don't draft linebackers in the first round of the NFL draft. Here's a list of linebackers taken in the first round since 2017. Jared Davis, Reuben Foster, Roquan Smith, Tremaine Edmonds, Leighton Vander Esch, Rashaan Evans, Devin White, Devin Bush, Isaiah Simmons, Kenneth Murray, Jordan Brooks, Patrick Queen, Micah Parsons, Zaven Collins, Jamin Davis.
All right.
Jack,
all right.
What do you reckon?
Well, and for those of you who are listening, unfortunately, we've lost Prof due to connectivity issues. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll see that. Hopefully, he gets back to us for the end of the show. I'm buying that. I think you're going to find value in linebackers later in the draft. I also think the game has evolved to, Staley, we know that Staley doesn't put a lot of emphasis on the linebacker position. I think what you're asking linebackers to do these days is something that only a very, very small percentage of them can not only do physically, but also mentally. You're asking them to process at such a high speed. You're not only asking them to defend the run, but you're also asking them to be sideline to sideline. And I think
it's so hard.
And I think there's only going to be a couple of players in a draft class that even have the ability to do that. Good question. I love it. Okay, here we go. Lloydie. The Cardinals are handling the Kyler Murray situation well.
Ooh, I think they are at the moment. They're just ignoring him. They're kind of doing their thing, signing a couple of free agent pieces. I think they signed Will Hernandez, a guard. We'll give you a couple of little weapons. And I think they know trouble's brewing. And just in case that we'd forgotten about it, I think Kyler's agent kind of essentially left a little birdie out there during the week there's a very real likelihood that he's going to hold out unless he gets his big contract. I think, honestly, the way that Kyler's side has played has been quite childish, scrubbing social media accounts, all that kind of gear. It's pretty unbecoming in my opinion.
Lots of capitalizations in letters and things like that. Yeah.
At least it's not the different script that Cam Newton uses. I've got no idea what that is.
As a teacher, I cannot do that. As an English teacher, I'm sorry. Kyler Murray, get out.
No, but to answer your question, I think they're handling it well. I think there's going to be a big issue, though, as we approach training camp, if they're not willing to make him, one of the highest paid players in the league. I have one more, Jack. The NFL should host a regular season game here in Australia.
I'm buying that one. That's amazing. I'd love that. It's probably out of the question, but hopefully through this podcast, we can show our small community at Bolts from the Blue that there are Aussies that absolutely love NFL football. I would love to see it. If the Chargers, was it the Chargers, come and play a game? Oh, mate, I'd be over the moon. I think we're all going to be planning in the next year or two to get to SoFi and come and watch, but over the moon. Is it feasible? Possibly not. I think we need...
Well, Munich, Germany gets a game this year. Regular season, there's been Munich, London get their gigs, Mexico City.
100%.
Come on down to the MCG in Melbourne. We'll be there. We'll do a live podcast from the stadium.
We will, if we can contain our excitement. All right, I've got I've got the last couple to fire at you, Lloydie.
Sure.
Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will be the best Monday Night Football announcing duo ever.
Oh, man. You're dreaming.
Oh, no! Okay.
I'm not... I don't know what's the middle ground if I somewhat agree but disagree. I don't think you're dreaming. I'm a bit over Chris Collinsworth. I respect what he does. He's the ultimate pro. I really like Tirico. I think they'll be excellent. I just think it's hard to say who's the greatest ever. We weren't around listening to Madden and Summerall and all that kind of stuff. It's before our time. But I think they'll be amongst the best that we've seen.
I can't wait for Tirico. I think he's really earned it. I've loved listening to him in the NBA. I love he's eloquent and he gets excited enough, but not super excited, which is fantastic.
Yeah, he's awesome.
All right, last one from me. Telesco has a shrine in the front of his home dedicated to Brandon Staley and prays beneath it every night to keep his job.
Man, he's so closely in cahoots with the son of the Spanos, Mr. John, that I don't know if he needs to be praying to any kind. I don't think he needs the divine inspiration. It's probably timely with Easter going on at the moment, and I think Staley will rise out of bed on Sunday, right? So Staley will have risen. He's our Messiah.
100%.
I think Telesco, unfortunately, and whether it's warranted or not, has a fair bit of leniency his way. But undoubtedly his professional career is tied to Staley's. No matter what happens from here, if things went downhill, I don't think Telesco could possibly survive a third firing.
Cool. Well, I think that's it. Unfortunately, we've lost Prof in the middle of this chat due to internet connectivity issues, but that's okay. Alistair, where can we find you on Twitter or any social medias if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah, please do. We're always happy to have a chat, talk about the Chargers. You can find me on Twitter at TDU_Alistair, and you can also chat to me on the Bolts from the Blue community. Where can we find you, Jack?
Same thing. On Twitter, I'm at TDU_Jack. We'll be looking to develop our social media presence over the next couple of months. But if you're watching this on YouTube, it'd be awesome if you hit the like and subscribe button so you can get updates for when we put up more content. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with our next episode, which is we're going to be discussing the pre-draft stuff. So we'll go through players we like, players we don't, what our draft strategy might be, and anything else that comes across. Please, in the comments today, let us know what you liked about the episode. Let us know what you didn't. Please be soft. This is our first time doing something like this. Try not to make too much fun of my moustache, and try not to make too much fun of Alistair being bald. It's
been years. It's been years and years.
I'm trying to make up for the lack of with my beard. But anyway,
you're doing well.
Anyway, thank you so much, folks. Thanks, Lloydie. Thanks to Prof. Hopefully he can get his internet sorted out. But that's all of it. Last words from you, Alistair. Anything?
No, thanks everyone. It's been amazing. This is really a dream for us. So thank you very much for listening. Have a very happy Easter, and we'll see you next time on the Thunder Down Under podcast.
See you, folks.
Back pedals looking, firing, he's got Floyd turning, got it, zigzag, 10, 5, high step, touchdown, San Diego!
Woo! Good night to all!